6 here on AM 680 WRKO and now on 93.7 HD2 617-266-6868. You can also text us at 680-680. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer, cleaning up the liberal bull. Or rather, I should say, the voice of the resistance. This show and you, this audience, we are now increasingly becoming the resistance to a growing liberal fascist America. Now, those aren't my words. There is a stunning and brilliant editorial, unsigned editorial, which means it's the official position in the Wall Street Journal today. I urge everybody to go out and read it. It's called Obama Unleashes the Left. And in this piece, according to the Wall Street Journal piece, you now have a form of political Satanism. What we're seeing at Harvard University with the satanic black mass is a form of cultural Satanism. What you're seeing with Marjorie Akbar Egan and other liberals in this state, including every major candidate for governor on the Democratic Party, calling for no death penalty to flashbang, is a form of cultural Satanism. They will defend evil. They will even worship evil at all costs. Well, now there's political Satanism. And the political Satanism is the drive by the left to destroy free speech and freedom of expression, the First Amendment, here in America. And the Wall Street Journal lays out example after example that has been going on now under this regime for the last couple of years. Let me point you a couple of examples in the piece. You have former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice had to withdraw her her speaking to be a commencement speaker at Rutgers University after 2 months of protests over Iraq by professors and teachers and students at the university. The professors whipped up the students, calling her a war criminal. She eventually backed down and stepped down and withdrew as a speaker at Rutgers University. Brandeis University rescinded its invitation to Somali writer Hirsi Ali, who left radical Islam, converted to Christianity, and exposed the abuse of women and children committed in Islamic societies all across Africa and the Middle East. For this crime of insulting radical Islam, her invitation to speak was rescinded by the radical left. Azusa Pacific University, quote, postponed, unquote, a speech scheduled in April, meaning they basically rescinded it, by political scientist Charles Murray. You know, he's the one that wrote The Bell Curve and wrote other books, to avoid, quote, hurting our faculty and students of color, unquote. How is Charles Murray hurting them by speaking? How is it going to hurt them? How does it hurt you to hear a different point of view? What, are you so pathetic? Are you so insecure? You can't handle a conservative, respected sociologist and political scientist talking about why there are certain differences in ethnic groups in the United States? That not everything comes down to racism? And for that, they're banned or whatever, postponed from speaking on campus? The piece further cites Oberlin College, which earlier this year proposed that its teachers, now check this out, be aware of racism, classism, sexism. This one I love. Heterosexism. I never knew there was such a thing as heterosexism, but I guess if you're a heterosexual, you're now a heterosexist. Heterosexism. This one I really don't get. Cis-sexism. I don't know what the hell that is. Ableism. So I guess if you're talented, that's a form of discrimination, ableism. And other issues of privilege and oppression. Mozilla co-founder Brendan Eich was driven out as CEO for donating money to support California's Proposition 8, which, by the way, passed with a majority in California, because he believed at the time that marriage, check this out, is between a man and a woman. So he donates a little bit of money, and they fire him, they push him out as being CEO of Mozilla. And it goes on and on and on and on. Now, the Harvard Crimson, getting back to Harvard. Because you see, these are the key laboratories of radical liberalism. What you see in Harvard and the other Ivy League schools, that's the future. So when they're banning people from speaking, when they're holding satanic black masses, when they have the chief spreading bulls and the Elizabeth Warrens on campus, that's the frontier, the next frontier of liberalism. So in the Harvard Crimson, the student newspaper recently, an undergraduate columnist wrote this. I talked about it a couple of weeks ago, but I want to refresh your memory. Quote, let's give up on academic freedom in favor of justice, quote unquote. So they're now openly saying we don't want academic freedom. Freedom of speech, freedom of expression, real intellectual freedom, real intellectual diversity. No, 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 no. We want Marxist social justice. When they say justice, they mean Marxist social justice. The dear leader. We want what the dear leader says. We want what the dear leader believes. And so so how is this going to work? So how do you replace academic freedom with justice, social justice? Quote, when an academic community observes research promoting or justifying oppression, it should ensure that this research does not continue, quote unquote. So if you don't like the research, because it's what? Pro-Christian, pro-capitalist, pro-free market, anti-global warming, anti-same-sex marriage, God forbid, anti-abortion, gone. Your research is killed, you're fired, you're out. She cited particularly, and I've read his work, he's very good. And honestly, he's a highly respected scholar. Even the intellectual libs, if they're honest, ask the New Republic who've published his work, say he's very smart, very thought-provoking. Professor Harvey Mansfield. He teaches government. He's a conservative at Harvard University. He's one of the most respected academics in the country and in the world. And she openly said, we got to get him. He's got to go. He's not wanted at Harvard University. This is a modern-day Inquisition. You're seeing it in universities, campuses all across this country. You're seeing it being done against the Tea Party. You're seeing it being done in the private sector. Look what they tried to do to Phil Robertson and Duck Dynasty. Well, now, hold on. So, it's not just Duck Dynasty. It's not just the former CEO and co-founder of Mozilla. It's not just campuses. It's not just Oberlin College, Harvard University. No, 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 no. It's not just Condi Rice or Ali Hersey. No, 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 no. There's a station on TV, on cable TV, called HGTV. It's not my thing. It's not my cup of tea. Grace occasionally does watch it. It's basically a home improvement station. Okay, if you're into homes, buying homes, selling homes, Grace is obsessed with real estate. My wife is like obsessed with real estate. Apparently there are two twins, David and Jason Benham, who apparently have been flipping houses for 10 years and making a very good living at it. Well, apparently they're very successful. They're very big in the house flipping community. They made a fortune. And so HGTV recently gave a green light for their reality series, Flip It Forward. And they're very popular. People love to watch them. Ratings have been phenomenal. Response has been phenomenal. But guess what? The very same liberal inquisitors, the liberal commissars, the liberal Gestapo, and I know them because they keep listening to my show. They listen, they text, they listen, they text. Every word, every syllable, every sentence, they're just looking to take out of context, to brand me as a racist or a homophobe or an Islamophobe so they can take me off the air. Well, Right Wing Watch, which is one of these groups, they've been on my case for years. They read every column I write. They listen to every show I do. Well, they reported Tuesday to HGTV that apparently one of the twins, David Benham, check this out, had led a prayer rally outside of the Democratic National Convention in Charlotte, North Carolina, remember, in 2012. And he was on the Janet Medford show. In fact, I've been on her show a few times, but let that go, in which he told radio host Janet Medford that America's Christian majority must repent, as he put it, for tolerating homosexuality and its agenda that is attacking the nation. And he also said about demonic ideologies taking our universities and our public school systems. His brother, Jason, joined him in the prayer protest. Apparently, the Benhams, both David and Jason, they're both evangelical Christians, have led protests outside of abortion clinics. Now, let me ask you this. What crimes have they committed? They went in front of the DNC, the Democratic National Convention. They're protesting same-sex marriage. He gives his opinion. You may agree, you may disagree. People can agree to disagree. It's a free country. Said, look, I think this homosexual agenda is bad. It's bad for our kids. It's bad for families. A lot of these liberal ideologies are destroying our universities. This is bad. And more than that, we believe life is sacred. And we go to abortion clinics. We let them walk in. We let them walk out, but we protest. Peaceful, nonviolent civil disobedience. A protest. Freedom of association. Freedom of assembly. You now ask someone their opinion. What do you think of gay rights, homosexuality, gay marriage? I'm not a big fan. Okay, what do you think of abortion? I'm not a big fan. And now you're going to lose your job? HGTV just announced that they are now killing the show. That these two brothers have lost their show, Flip It Forward, because of these supposedly anti-gay statements and anti-abortion statements. Where's the First Amendment? Where's respect for real diversity and tolerance and compassion? But check this out. While the Benhams have now lost their show on HGTV, do you know who they've given a show to? I swear to you. They've given a design competition show to none other than Mrs. Lesbian herself, the leading gay homosexual activist in America, Ellen DeGeneres, a.k.a. Ellen DeGenerate. My friends, this is an all-out assault on the First Amendment. The radical left has been unleashed by Obama. And my question to you is this. Should the Denham brothers have lost their show simply for speaking out their First Amendment rights against homosexuality and abortion? 617-266-6868 is the number. 820 on the great WRKO. All of your calls next. $825 here on the great WRKO. 617-266-6868 is the number. So these poor twin brothers, because they have spoken out against homosexuality, same-sex marriage, abortion, have now lost their reality series, Flip It Forward, on HGTV. In fact, they've been so cleansed that I said, hey, Brittany, let's get a little clip of these guys talking or flipping houses or whatever. It's off already. The show's been erased from HGTV's website. Where's the First Amendment? What the hell ever happened to freedom of speech? Now, I understand if you're running around with the neo-Nazi party, or you're running around with some hardcore Marxist-Leninist group, some terrorist group, I understand. You got to protect the brand. But you mean now in America you don't have a right to your opinion? Most of the world is opposed to same-sex marriage. Most of the world thinks there's a serious problem with homosexuality. Most of the world is against abortion. And now you're going to be penalized upon losing your job or losing a series just because your views run opposed to the political correctness of our narrow, arrogant, totalitarian, liberal left elite? Since when do progressives decide what's acceptable and what's not acceptable free speech? 617-266-6868. It is now verboten in Obama's America to even criticize the homosexual agenda or abortion. Creeping communism, that's what I've said about liberalism for years. It is liberalism is communism on the cheap. That's what this is. 617-266-6868 is the number. Brittany, who do I go to first? Ray, you're up next. Thanks for holding. You're on WRKO. Go.
Hi, Jeff.
Hey, Ray.
Sir Edmund Burke said, "For evil to triumph, let good men do nothing." You, sir, are a good man, and you do something every single day. I'm an Egyptian, Coptic, Christian. I see evil. My family sees evil every day in Egypt. And the reason why liberals and radical Muslims cling together is that suppression of speech. You're not allowed to say your opinion like Ayaan Hirsi Ali or Condoleezza Rice or any of these people that want to express a conservative point of view. They're completely shut down and they're attacked. You, sir, are the only voice that we have here in Boston that gives clear, concise, absolutely wonderful speech in terms of protecting the freedom of speech. When I came to this country back in '69, it was a completely different country. Today, the liberalism has oppressed any thought, any free speech, anything like that. I just want to say one thing.
Sure, Ray.
When you protect and when you talk about defending Israel, Israel is but a postage stamp in a huge envelope, if you look at it that way, in the Middle East. And when you defend Israel, you defend freedom and democracy.
Ray, thank you so much for that call. Please call back again. Look, I know what the Coptic Christians have been suffering in Egypt. Their churches have been burned, they have been killed, they have been massacred. And who put the Muslim Brotherhood in power? Who put those Islamist terrorists in power? None other than our own State Department, Hillary Clinton, and the dear leader. 617-266-6868. Burn them at the stake there, burn them at the stake here. 8:36 here on the great WRKO. 617-266-6868 is the number. Twin brothers, the Benham brothers, they're twins, big in the house flipping community, have had a show pulled, their reality TV series pulled from HGTV because of private comments that they made off of work hours. One of the brothers in front of the Democratic National Convention gave an interview to a conservative radio host. I know her. She's very good. Janet Medford, saying he disagrees with homosexuality, the homosexual lifestyle, and the homosexual agenda. Both brothers also have been known to be in front of abortion clinics protesting. And so for being opposed to gay rights, or in this particular same-sex marriage and abortion, they have now lost their show. But Ellen DeGenerate will be given a design competition show on HGTV. So if you're pro-gay, pro-same-sex marriage, pro-abortion, think about this, in favor of the murder of unborn children, no problem. You get a nice show on HGTV. But if you happen to be opposed to those two, and not saying it on the show, just saying it in the privacy of your own home or at an event or whatever off of work hours, it is used against you. It is the new McCarthyism where now you will be thrown out of work, hounded from university, hounded from your job. And my question to you is this. Is this not creeping communism? Is this not now a form of creeping totalitarianism and an assault on the First Amendment? 617-266-6868 is the number. The devil, welcome to the Kuhner Report. How are you, Lucifer?
We're doing very well, and we're gaining ranks every day. Hey, listen, this is really not the devil, it's really Bruce, because I'm not a liberal. If I was a liberal, I could lie to you and say that I'm not. I just had to get on, and I'm talking about these two cats that got kicked off. They'll get right back on again. Don't make any mistake about it. I'll see to it.
What happened to Bruce? We lost Bruce, or Bruce, you just dropped on us. That could have been the devil. I think the devil cast a spell. I mean, now, okay, so let's go to Lee. Lee, you've been patiently holding. I hope the devil doesn't zap your call. Lee, thank you for holding. You're on WRKO. Welcome.
Good morning, Jeff, and good evening from China.
You're calling from China?
Yes, sir, I am. Northern China, in fact.
Lee, we've kept you on for a while. I wish you would have told us that. I got a new guy answering the phones who can't speak proper English. Did he not understand you that you're from China, Lee?
He didn't ask, but that's okay. If I gotta follow the devil, anything works, Jeff, okay?
Lee, if you don't mind me asking, what are you doing in China, Lee?
I'm living here for 4 years. I teach at a university, and I am addicted to RKO. So
wow, okay. Lee, so I don't want to give you away. So you teach at a university somewhere in communist China?
I do, yes.
Okay, go ahead. The floor is yours, Lee.
Okay, I think I've got a clue with regards to Marjorie Egan's fanaticism and Dear Leader's cult following for all the situations that's going on right now all over the world that the United States has got its fingers on, that nobody wants to say the N-word. And if you'll allow me, the reason why all these things are now falling flat on their face from the Dear Leader is that his narcissism is fading, and they can't handle it.
Lee, you almost gave me a semi-heart attack there. When you said the N-word, I'm like, please don't say it, Lee. Don't say it. But no, you're saying it's the narcissism word.
Yeah, we're in the same club. Well, we can respect each other regarding anything else, but this narcissism cult is what got them in. They're trying to hold them up, and I think it explains everything about, especially in Massachusetts, but Elizabeth Warren and all of this stuff that they can't handle it. It's fading away. He's showing that he's a fake, and life goes on, and we're stuck with it. Everybody.
Lee, let me ask you this: just because you're there in China now, you're obviously teaching at a university. What do the Chinese think about Obama, the Dear Leader? What do they think of him and his policies? Do they respect him?
Well, in a totalitarian regime, in a top-down type of society, leaders are leaders, and they kind of are stuck on that. But many of the students that I teach, some have a pretty good take on things, and they can figure it out on their own. God bless them. There are a lot of people that just adore and worship leaders. That I meet them both. I meet them on both sides, Jeff, and it's a mixed bag. It's a mixed bag.
Lee, now you're spending time in China. When you listen to what's happening in the United States, do you feel now we are slowly becoming more like communist China?
Absolutely, yes. rights are disappearing. I'm married to a Chinese woman. We get into occasional debates all the time, and she wants to travel, she wants to leave China, blah, 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 all these things. And she'll mention something. She invokes, well, I have a right. And the first thing I say to her is, in China, you don't have any rights. And that is what's happening to the America that I grew up in anyway, is that the rights are being slowly cut away like slices of bologna. They are disappearing, and if you can't see it, folks, and thank you, Jeff, for your great programming, please wake up. Please wake up, America.
Lee, listen, I have to go. I got Howie coming on next, but Lee, please call again, and the next time you call, you tell that guy who can't speak proper English, Dimitri, you tell Dimitri, this is not Russia. You say, listen, Dimitri, this is Lee. I'm an American in China. You put me to the front of the line.
Okay.
All right, Lee?
And God bless the devil that I had to follow.
God bless you, Lee. 617-266-6868. Dimitri, what did I tell you? Ask the people where they're calling from, Dimitri. This is not Russia, my friend. Welcome back to the Kuhner Report, 8:48 here on AM 680 WRKO. My friends, it's Thursday. You know what that means? Coffee with the great Howie Carr, Boston's talk radio legend, brought to us by Perfect Smiles. Howie, my buddy, how are you?
I'm very good. I tell you, these lawyers for the Joker are giving me high blood pressure, though. I mean, my head is about to explode at least once a week from reading these documents that they keep filing, on behalf of this terrorist. I can't believe it. The thing today that really got me, forget the whole death penalty thing. About the fact that his lawyers put in this thing that when he was being questioned by the FBI agents after he was captured, he couldn't speak because his jaw was broken. So he kept writing on the pad, lawyer, lawyer, lawyer. He did it 10 times. They come over here, these people seeking asylum. They get everything handed to him. The guy never learned how to apply for a job, but he, by God, understands his rights perfectly under the Sixth Amendment to get a free lawyer, to defend them. It's just amazing. Do they have any courses for these people when they come into this country seeking quote-unquote political asylum? That along with all your rights in the United States, there used to be something called responsibilities, like supporting yourself, not blowing up the people who are providing the money for your welfare check. The guy, it's just so irritating. I so wish that David Hinneberry, the guy that owned the boat, like I said in my column last week, I wish he'd quit smoking so he didn't go out to have a smoke and didn't see the blood on the boat and the Joker just bled to death. We wouldn't have any of this going on right now. He would just be with his 72 virgins relaxing in paradise.
Now, Howie, I got to ask you, Marjorie Egan, a colleague of yours at the Boston Herald, has a column today saying it's barbaric to have the death penalty, that Flashbang's case is Exhibit A for why we should not have the death penalty. Every major candidate on the Democratic side for governor does not want the death penalty for Flashbang. Liberals are now increasingly galvanizing around the idea that the death penalty should be nixed. His lawyer wants it to be nixed. Why do you think so many liberals do not want the death penalty for Flashbang?
I don't know. Why do they write puff pieces about him? I mean, why did they describe his brother, a serial killer, 7 people killed, murdered at the age of 27, as a stay-at-home dad? I mean, there's this double standard here, right? For Muslim terrorists, it's like they're a protected class. I mean, I don't seem to recall this crusade, or should I say a jihad, for Timothy McVeigh. I mean, there weren't any candlelight vigils for him, were they? He didn't make the cover of the Rolling Stone. Well, what is this all about? I don't quite get it, and I saw these teeny boppers last year at the courthouse. I was covering the Whitey trial, and you walk outside. It was at the same day when he was first being brought into court, and there are all these people, these women, these kids, 20 years old women, not too good looking. That's sort of the one. Nice thing about it. But they were saying, I want to have the Joker's baby. I mean, that's like beyond the Beatles and Elvis teeny boppers. I mean, that's just sick. I don't get it. There is this amazing double standard here that for Muslim terrorists. I just don't get it. I mean,
Howie, buddy, let me ask you this: do you think Marjorie Akbar Egan? You think Marjorie would put on some fishnet stockings and maybe go visit Flashbang in prison?
I think it's more likely that Jan Wehner and his husband Matt Nye would go visit Flashbang in prison than Marjorie would. Honestly, I think there's a lot of that going on too in the mainstream media. I mean, of all the words, I think the craziest word, even worse than calling his brother a stay-at-home dad when he's killed more people than Whitey Bulger or Stevie Fleming at the same age. I think the even worse is calling him fossil-haired. I mean, that's like something you'd read in like the old Tiger Beat magazine or something, fossil-haired. Does anybody remember him putting the pressure cooker kettle bomb right in front of that little 8-year-old kid from Dorchester, Martin Richard? I mean, how can you have any sympathy whatsoever for this guy? And again, I mean, what a typical leech. I mean, the only thing let me go to, the FBI's questioning him. Is there anybody else in your gang? I mean, this is not like some kind of, torture. They're not waterboarding him. They want to know if there's anybody else in the gang, if there's still a threat to public safety, And who sent? And by the way, who sent the lawyers in? These lawyers. I'm sure they got the red diaper doper babies, as Michael Savage calls them. Who sent them in? Eric Holder. That's what stopped the interrogation of Flashbang. It's just astounding. I mean, bring back John Mitchell. As far as I'm concerned, I don't care if he's a crook. I'd rather have him in there. Do you think John Mitchell would have sent in a team of goateed Birkenstock wearing lawyers for any of the terrorists? I don't think so.
Or Ed Meese under Reagan?
Yeah, Ed Meese. There's another one. Yeah, or John Ashbrook under Bush. Not one of my big favorites, but I mean, they're sworn to uphold the law, not to mollycoddle terrorists who've been on a murder spree ever since they arrived in this country. They got plenty. God knows they got plenty of time because, like I said, none of them had jobs.
Howie, before I let you go, I got to ask you about something else. Matthew Denise.
Yes.
Apparently now they need a translator for the case to proceed forward, but they're not finding a translator, Howie.
Yeah, I know. They said that the guy was in the country for 10 years. Somehow he was able to go to a liquor store that day in Milford and buy a case of Bud Lights. But I guess they had a Quichean speaker in the liquor store. I don't know. But so now they're saying, well, we have a translator, but he doesn't speak the right dialect of Quichean. And guess how many dialects there are of Quichean? They said yesterday in court. 47.
Are you serious?
Yes, I am serious.
47.
46. What do you want to bet that they bring in 46 guys and says, nope, this isn't the right dialect. Nope. No comprende.
So they postponed the trial again, Howie.
They postponed the trial again. Remember, and the other thing about this one is, at least they got rid of the judge, the first judge, the noted equestrian woman. I think her name's Kenton Walker. She's the one who said, we can't hold this drunk driving against this man because he's of Indian descent, and many of them lack the certain enzyme needed to metabolize alcohol. And as one of my texters said yesterday, we have an organization in this country for people who who lack the enzymes to metabolize alcohol. It's called Alcoholics Anonymous. You don't get cut loose if you're a U.S. citizen because you lack the enzyme. It's just again, and she said he didn't understand the American system of jurisprudence. Well, the guy had a record before he killed Matthew Denise, the motorcyclist, when he was drunk. He had a record as long as his arm. He beat a rap on assaulting a firefighter in Milford. I mean, that's pretty good when you assault the first responder and get away with it. He had a pretty good. He must have had the same lawyer as Flashbang, the Joker.
Howie, buddy, before I let you go, any book signings, any events that the people can go out and see you at?
Yes, we're going to have our next night of crime is also a wine tasting at Brusa Wine and Spirits in Burlington. That's from 4 to 8, a week from Sunday, May 18th. Makes a great Mother's Day, Father's Day gift. You can order your tickets at howiecarrshow.com, and we have another night of crime coming up 5 days later on May 23rd, Friday night in Worcester at the Hanover Theater. Again, you can order your tickets at howiecarrshow.com. howiecarrshow.com. Howie, as usual, dynamite stuff, buddy. We've been talking to Boston's talk radio legend, the great Howie Carr, sponsored to us by Perfect Smiles. Howie, keep up the great work, buddy. Okay, thanks, Jeff.
God bless you, buddy. 617-266-6868 is the number. You want to take a quick call, Brittany? Steven, you're up next. Thanks for holding. You're on RKO. Go.
Hi, good morning. Interesting that you didn't ask Howie about the Tea Party candidate for governor who tried to extort $1 million from the Republican Party, but we'll let that go. Maybe the reason that you failed as an academic is the fact that you don't understand that the First Amendment protects you against the government. It doesn't say that you can go out and say whatever you want, and a private business that employs you, who makes the decision that, gee, this is going to be bad for business, this is going to be bad for ratings, we don't want to employ you.
Well, first of all, how can it be bad for ratings and how can it be bad for business when the majority of Americans are pro-life? The majority of Americans oppose same-sex marriage. They've lost in referendum after referendum. That's number one. Number two, when people began losing their jobs in the 1950s because of McCarthyism, it was liberals and leftists like you who were saying, ooh, violation of the First Amendment. Ooh, communist witch hunt. But now when you have a liberal witch hunt, a progressive witch hunt against people whose views you disagree with, suddenly, oh, the First Amendment only protects you from the government. Hey, look, either we have freedom of speech or we don't have freedom of speech. What people say in private that does not relate to their work is none of anybody's business. And I'm telling you right now, if HGTV wants to do this, fine. I'm not going to watch HGTV. And I'm urging all my listeners to boycott HGTV. Because unlike you, I'm not a leftist liberal thug. I actually believe in tolerance and freedom of speech. Thank you for that call. 617-266-6868 is the number. 9 o'clock here on the great WRKO. Let's take it to Angela in the news. Welcome back to the Kuhner Report, Hour 4, 617-266-6868. If you want to be part of the show, it's now 9:07 here on AM 680 WRKO and now on 93.7 HD2. A lot to talk about this hour, but first, there's a text about that liberal caller that just called about, maybe 8 minutes ago? We got him on at 8:59. I only had a minute. This is from 603. Jeff, why did you not dare to debate that lost caller? I thought we conservatives dared to debate in the arena of ideas. I think the libs are rubbing off on Jeff. He seems to be using their tactic. Actually, misspelled there, but let that go. Their tactic of shouting people down more frequently. Frankly, no, 603. We only had a minute. I let him say his piece. He went on for we had a news break. I had a hard break. I let him say his piece for like 45 seconds. He insulted me being some kind of failed academic, which is not true. I was literally voted the most popular professor at McGill for 2 years. He never taught anything. I guarantee you. What university did he teach at? Never mind the Harvard of the North. So he starts off with an ad hominem cheap shot, which is usually how liberals argue. And then he said, well, freedom of speech applies to the government. Yes, technically, But we have a tradition in this country that generally your private views should not be held against you in the workplace. It's called tolerance. It's called real freedom of speech. And so when liberals were losing jobs, or communist fellow travelers were losing their jobs in the 1950s in Hollywood, in academia, they do movies, they've written books about the so-called McCarthyite witch hunt. Well, now here you have an instance where thousands of academics have lost their jobs because of political correctness. Where you now have people losing their jobs, being kicked out for things they say in private. What's next? You oppose their leader's war in Libya? You're going to get fired? What's next? You oppose his agenda for man-made climate change and global warming? You're going to get fired? This is what they do in totalitarian societies. Now, HGTV, as I've argued, is a private company. They can do whatever they want. These, by the way, are the same liberals that if a private business doesn't want to give somebody a cake, bake somebody a cake, they want to sue the pants off of them. So let me get this straight. It's private, but it's not private. It's private when it suits you, but then it's not private when it doesn't suit you. So if they want to run their business in terms of how to bake a cake or who they want to sell their cake to, then all of a sudden, oh no, they have to be sued. Oh no, they have to be coerced. Then they don't have freedom of speech or freedom of religion. Then it's not only about the government, it's about treating fellow citizens. So if HGTV wants to fire these twins because they don't like their views on gay marriage or abortion, no problem. I'm going to boycott HGTV. But there's a deeper point. And that's what we're losing as a country. That frankly other democracies uphold following our example. I don't even know what Brittany's views are on abortion. I don't want to put words in her mouth. I suspect, like many women, she's probably pro-choice. I'm not going to fire her for that. What the hell is that? Do you know how many people I had worked for me at the Washington Times that were my reporters? That probably disagree with me on the Iraq War, disagree with me on immigration, disagree with me on abortion, disagree with me on same-sex marriage. I don't fire them because of their points of view. If they're not performing well, if they're not being good reporters, or if they're letting their political agenda get in the way of their work, that's a different story. But to go after people simply because you don't like their views? Now, if they're ramming their views in the show, that's something else. But they never made that claim. Even HGTV doesn't make that claim. So, let me get this straight. George Clooney can be an activist. He can go out and be for same-sex marriage. Oh, the guy's back on? No problem. Let's get him back on. Come on, let's get Genius back on. Stephen, are you back on? Hello, Stephen.
Hi there. Good morning.
Okay, all right. Let's go back. So,
right.
Let me ask you this. No, we'll settle this one at a time, Stephen, okay? Because unlike you, I believe in freedom of speech, all right? So this is a conservative show, not a liberal show. So we don't impose an orthodoxy. Before we get into the debate, you called me a failed academic, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. What university did you teach at?
Emerson College.
What did you teach at Emerson?
I taught radio programming, by the way.
You taught radio? When did you teach radio programming?
1986, I filled in for a professor while he was on...
Oh, okay, so you were a fill-in.
Right. Let me ask you this.
Whoa. You were a fill-in. Whoa, hold on. You were a fill-in, correct?
Right.
Okay. I taught at the Harvard of the North for 2 years.
The Harvard that you just denigrated in
Harvard in terms of its reputation, not Harvard in terms of its content. Frankly, McGill is a much better school than Harvard, which is why so many students from the United States go to Harvard, because they get a better education at a cheaper price, but let that go. In terms of its prestige and reputation. Hang on, buddy. So, whoa. So, I taught at a prestigious university. You never did. I taught for 2 years. I was voted the most popular professor for 2 years. So don't come in here saying I'm a failed academic, because frankly now you're being adolescent. Okay?
No, you're
so number one, your ad hominem attacks are pathetic. Let that go. Let's go to the substance. Let's go to the substance of the issue now. Okay?
Right.
So don't try to out-credential me because it's not going to work.
Do you have a PhD?
What does that have to do with anything?
Well, you continue it when you were debating Kevin a couple of weeks ago on history. You said,
first of all, it was Eric.
PhD? Do you have a PhD? Implying that you have a PhD.
No, I've said it about half a dozen times. I completed everything but my doctorate because I was teaching at McGill. I didn't have time to finish my dissertation.
Right, so you failed at that?
No, I didn't fail at that. I provided for my wife and I provided for my family. I ended up having a very successful career in journalism. And when I was in academia, I was voted the most popular professor at McGill University. In fact, if you want to get technical about it, the students practically rieted when it was announced that I was leaving.
Right.
That's how upset they were. So, number one, so listen, Stephen, listen. Stephen, listen. So your pathetic cheap shots, really, honestly, forget about it, because you're not going anywhere with them, okay? It's sad, it's pathetic, it's not going to work. Now, in terms of the substance of the issue, how would you like it if you were fired from your job because your boss didn't like your views on abortion or marriage? Is that freedom of speech? Is that tolerance? Hello?
If I was a public figure, okay, and contrary to, I know you play very loose with facts, like earlier you said that Harvard didn't have an ROTC program, which they do, but let that go. Secondly...
Whoa, for years they didn't have an ROTC program.
Why? Do you know why?
Did they have an ROTC program or not? For how many decades? Listen, Stephen, if you're not going to stay on track, listen, I know it's impossible for you to debate coherently. I'm asking you to stay on track. So they haven't had an ROTC program for decades. They're starting to come back on some college campuses because of a lot of public pressure. Now they're coming back. The fact of the matter is, for decades, the military was not welcome at Harvard. A satanic black mass is. That says everything. Move on. Now, get on to this. Why should somebody's opinion that has no effect on his work why does that give the employer the justification to fire them? You say that's tolerance?
No, here's the thing. First of all, they are public figures. Secondly, this was not done in private. This was a protest in front of the Democratic National Convention and during an interview on a far right-wing radical radio program.
Okay.
This is not some conversation that he had in the privacy of his own home. Secondly, let me explain something to you about ratings, okay? Something that sort of eludes you because you make fun of Jim Rowdy, who has twice as many listeners at noontime than you have at 8 o'clock. And by the way...
Get out of here. Get out of here. Get out of here. Cooksey just hung up on him. Get out of here. Honestly, really, he's a joke. He's an absolute joke. Look, it's an open secret. The guy has no listeners. He has horrible ratings. Even Browdy will admit he's got horrible ratings. Forget it. The guy's a liar. 617-266-6868. Honestly, don't waste my time. Just don't waste my time. I don't debate liars. So anyway, my friends. Yeah. Go listen to Hillary. Go listen to Hillary Chabot and that rich girl whose parents pay for her column in the Boston Herald. You'll get better education from them. 617, talk about dog walking or whatever, getting a divorce, getting remarried every 10 years. Okay, that's the stuff they do there. 617-266-6868 is the number. So, this is the reason why I cut people like him off. Because I don't want to argue with a lunatic. And I don't want to argue with a liar. Now, look at these liberals. When Hollywood directors, public figures, Hollywood actors, Hollywood screenwriters, when they were being denied promotions or jobs based on their affiliations with communists or the Communist Party, they have done movies, they have done books, they have done novels. My God, it's the greatest crime of the 1950s. But when it's being done to conservatives, when it's being done to people who oppose the abortion, same-sex, homosexual agenda, then it's okay. So, as an American, I don't have a right to protest. As an American, I can't go on a conservative talk show and express my opposition to same-sex marriage? It's going to cost me my job now? That's not freedom of speech. And notice, they're the exact same ones who go on about tolerance and diversity and compassion. So, you have a radical Muslim extremist on campus or in a position. They defend their rights. He talks about right-wing, supposed far right-wing. How about MS Left BC? How about the hate that comes out of their screens night after night after night? How about when Chris Matthews says you take a shotgun and kill Rush Limbaugh? How about when they openly talk about raping Sarah Palin? Then, but you can go on their shows. Then if you get fired for that, that's censorship. That's intolerance. We are a big and diverse country. We have different points of view. If we start waging this kind of economic warfare, whereby people are losing their jobs simply based on their personal political opinions, we're going to be at each other's throats. Now, this is what they did in the communist Soviet Union. I know. If you didn't agree with the Communist Party, you lost your job. This is what they did in Nazi Germany. You don't agree with Hitler and the Nazi agenda, you're out of a job. This is what they do in Castro's Cuba. This is what they did in Chavez's Venezuela. Now, HGTV is a private company. I agree. If they don't like the way you look, they have a right to fire you. But I have a right to boycott them. And I have a right to call them out on it. And I'll tell you this, what's sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander. So I'll tell you what, George Clooney opens his mouth, I want him fired. Sean Penn opens his mouth, I want him fired. How about Ellen DeGeneres? So she can talk about the glories of lesbianity and homosexuality and how it's great to kill your baby. You know what? I want her off the air. Because if you can't tolerate the Christian conservative, why should I have to tolerate a hardcore radical progressive? Oh, you don't like it when the shoe's on the other foot, huh? You see, you talk tolerance. I'm the only one who practices it. Mike, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Welcome.
Hi, Jeff. Yeah, that last caller, Emerson substitute teacher. First of all, no disregard for anybody that graduated from Emerson. It's a great broadcasting school. The fact that all I had in my mind, this image, Jeff, I'm driving my car, is, I don't know why it came into my head, but it was Himmler. Minister of Propaganda. This guy here, this type of mentality can create monsters out of good people that have good intentions. But this guy, and that type of mentality and that type of, strong-armed persuasion that you have to keep your opinions to yourself or you have to march and stuff. I mean, this type of mentality creates monsters, my friend.
I'm with you, Mike. That's what I find very frightening.
That's what this is going to create if we don't stop it.
Exactly. No, I'm with you. There's a great text from 339. Jeff, pretty soon, if you go to church on Sunday, you'll get fired. That's next. I'm telling you, that's next. 617-266-6868 is the number. 922 on the great WRKO. Coming up next, Lois Lerner held in contempt. She may serve jail time. My friends, the IRS scandal is just heating up. Don't touch that dial. Welcome back to the Kuhner Report, 925 here on the great WRKO. Lois Lerner, who headed the IRS division that was processing all of those tax-exempt applications. Yesterday, Congress voted that she was in contempt. Now they have asked the Justice Department, in particular Attorney General Eric Withholder, to appoint a special prosecutor, an independent counsel, a special counsel, to investigate the fact that she deliberately targeted countless Obama critics, Tea Party groups, conservative groups during 2010, 2011, and especially during the 2012 presidential election campaign. The vote to hold Lerner in contempt was contempt of Congress was 231 to 187. All Republicans voted in favor, 6 Democrats as well. So most Democrats voted against, except for 6 Democrats. Those are the ones who are sane, who can see that this scandal has serious legs. And the issue is this, my friends. She has been obstructing the IRS investigation now since she came out last year, this week, almost a week ago last year. We're at a conference. Out of the blue, it was one of the strangest things. It's one of the strangest things I've ever seen. She just announced out of the blue, by the way, she admits now, with a person she deliberately handpicked to ask the question, did you unfairly target members of the Tea Party? And she said, yes. And she hoped she would just get it out there and it would be swept under the rug. And of course it wasn't. And when the public found out, they were rightly livid. Now she is facing potential jail time. And it has now come out, story from my former newspaper, the Washington Times. It has now come out through House investigations. I want you to think about this. That 10% of all Tea Party groups, 10%, were deliberately audited by the IRS. This was a systematic, coordinated campaign of harassment, bullying, and intimidation to depress voter turnout and to depress the opposition from galvanizing and organizing against the president's re-election in November. The IRS scandal, in a nutshell, was a criminal conspiracy by senior IRS officials, and we now know with connections to the Obama regime, to make sure that the conservative opposition to Obama would be harassed by the IRS so they couldn't organize, they couldn't raise money, they couldn't mobilize the vote. This was a massive mafia-style criminal conspiracy to keep the dear leader in office. There are so many laws that were broken, it's not even funny. And remember, when the Democrats were drawing up articles of impeachment against Nixon, he was never impeached, but they wanted to impeach him, and had he not resigned, they would have impeached him. One of the key articles of impeachment was they alleged that Nixon had used the IRS as a political weapon to go after all of his political opponents and critics. The Democrats, including Hillary Clinton, who worked for the committee then, said if you use the IRS to go after your opponents, it's an impeachable criminal offense. To this day, no one in a senior position anywhere in the IRS has been held accountable or has been fired. They have tried to cover this thing up now since the scandal broke last year. And they bought off Lois Lerner with a sweetheart retirement package. And now the Democrats are circling the wagons, trying to protect her at all costs, because if she talks, if she sings like a canary, my friends, just like Benghazi, this scandal will go not only to the president's men, but to the dear leader himself. And my question to you is this: should Lois Lerner go to prison for obstruction of justice and lying to Congress? 617-266-6868 is the number. Lois Lerner, will she sing? Should she go to prison? All of your calls next.
I have not done anything wrong. I have not broken any laws. I have not violated any IRS rules or regulations, and I have not provided false information to this or any other congressional committee. And while I would very much like to answer the committee's questions today, I've been advised by my counsel to assert my constitutional right not to testify or answer questions related to the subject matter of this hearing.
Welcome back.
After very careful consideration.
Welcome back to the Kuhner Report, 9:39 here on AM 680 WRKO. That, of course, was the former head of the IRS's tax-exempt division, Lois Lerner, her first testimony under oath to Congress when the scandal first broke. Now, if you notice, this is the key point. When you invoke the fifth, you got to invoke the fifth. If you start pleading your innocence, if you start saying you did nothing wrong, you've waived your right to the Fifth Amendment. That's the law. So she wants to come in and do some PR damage, some PR control, make sure that she handles all the PR damage. Oh, I'm innocent. I did nothing wrong, but I got to plead the fifth now. I'm innocent. Oh, I'm innocent like a dove. I'm innocent like an unborn, like a little innocent baby. I'm innocent like a baby. But I got to plead the fifth. Well, if you're innocent, how come there are all these emails now that we found of you directly ordering your underlings and subordinates in the Cincinnati office and elsewhere to deliberately go after people with ties to Tea Party groups, conservative groups, or critics of the president? And as is reported in the Washington Times today, private citizens, 1 out of 10 donors to Tea Party groups or anti-Obama groups were systematically targeted by the IRS. Ben Carson was targeted. Conservatives in Hollywood were targeted. Major donors to the Romney campaign were targeted. The word was out. You defy the dear leader, we're going to sick the IRS on you. We're going to bankrupt you. We're going to intimidate you. We're going to look at you. We're going to see what you're praying, what the contents of your prayers are, what you're reading, what your reading lists are. We're going to come after you. We're going to find out every nook and cranny of your personal life. Make it so painful, so difficult, you're just going to say no mas, throw up your hands, and walk away. And to a large extent, they succeeded. They deliberately disrupted the ability of people in the country to mobilize against Obama's reelection. That's the ultimate scandal of the IRS auditing. It wasn't just the, quote, targeting, unquote, of certain groups or certain people. It was a massive criminal conspiracy to block Obama's critics from organizing to oppose the president in the 2012 presidential election campaign. Laws were broken, criminal acts were committed, and at the center of this is Lois Lerner. And she has now been obstructing justice and obstructing Congress now for over a year. Throw her in the slammer, throw away the key. And let's see if she still wants to take the bullet for the dear leader. Because if she goes to prison, I got a funny feeling she's going to start talking and talking big. 617-266-6868 is the number. Russ, you're up first. Thanks for holding. You're on the Kuhner Report on RKO. Welcome.
Jeff, ignorant learner did not learn from the Nuremberg trials. Carrying out the wishes of the Fuhrer will not insulate you from prosecution. Heil Hitler has its limits of benefits.
Thank you for that call, Russ. She was a hack. She was an apparatchik. We all know that. She was implementing the orders of the IRS commissioner who had met with Obama, by the way, hundreds of times. To this day, no one has been able to, no other cabinet official, Vice President, Secretary of State, Secretary of the Treasury, even Eric Withholder, his good buddy. Nobody met as often with the dear leader as the IRS commissioner. And I swear to you, when pressed, well, why so many meetings? Easter, the Easter Bunny Hunt, the Washington Nationals. You're kidding me? You guys were meeting, hundreds of times to talk to Washington Nationals in the Easter Bunny Hunt? They were planning how to use the IRS to destroy Obama's critics and opponents. It goes from Lerner to the IRS commissioner straight into the Oval Office. John, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Bruce. Okay, let's go to. Okay, Bruce, you're up next on WRKO. Go ahead, Bruce.
Jeff, I just wanted to address the common mistake of taking ad hominem to mean personal. Ad hominem actually means to the man, and it's actually the name of a logical fallacy, which is, for example, that man is guilty because he's a Jew. That's an argument that appeals to the personal prejudices of a man. That's what it means. There's no such thing as an ad hominem attack on a person. For one thing, the word ad means to, but a personal attack is something different from an ad hominem argument.
Bruce, I'm reading to you now straight from the Webster Dictionary.
Yeah?
Okay, ad hominem. Definition of ad hominem, straight from Webster. Number 1, appealing to feelings or prejudices rather than intellect.
Yes.
Point 2, marked by or being an attack on an opponent's character rather than being an answer to the contentions made.
I realize that second one is what has grown into the language, but it casts a shadow on a person's academic credentials to use something that is in the dictionary simply because it's like the word ain't.
So let me get this straight, Bruce. So it casts aspersions on my academic credentials because I use a term ad hominem, which is used by practically everybody.
Yeah.
Including politicians, including, other academics.
Well, now, there you have... okay, you've convinced me. Now that you've told me that politicians use it, I apologize.
What I'm saying is...
I will start talking in whatever new term the government
I got it. Bruce, it's used by politicians, it's used by academics, it's used by people in the media. It's been used now for I don't know how long to mean an attack on someone's character.
I'm well aware of the decline in our...
He was attacking my personal character, and I said it's an ad hominem attack. Now, you're right, 400 or 500 years ago, ad hominem didn't mean that. But I live today, Bruce.
Please say personal attack. Why do you have to throw in terms? It's like listening to economists on the radio now. Economists are basically people who award each other the title of economist. In fact, are you familiar with Fortier's dictum? Economist to economics.
Bruce, can I ask you a question honestly? What's the purpose of your call?
Just the greats to not have people speak.
Not have people use ad hominem when everybody uses ad hominem. I just gave it to you from the Webster Dictionary. Marked by or being an attack on an opponent's character rather than being an answer to the contentions made.
Most of the people I know who apparently are from a different... I mean, I confess that I learned to recite some sort of prayers in Latin as a child. Of course, I had no idea what I was saying. But why not, if you want to talk about personal attacks, why try to embellish it with Latin terms?
Because it's commonly... Bruce, this is getting ridiculous.
I know it is.
Ad hominem is commonly used. It's a phrase used for a personal attack, attacking one's character, instead of the arguments made.
Yeah, and 3/4 of the people hearing it have no idea.
I think, the audience has no problem with ad hominem. The only one that seems to have a problem with ad hominem is you.
I guess so. Well, I'll go back to my Latin studies.
Because you're making an ad hominem attack in the defense of ad hominem. You see what's happening here, Bruce?
No.
Well, you're trying to claim I'm not a real academic, because I'm not using ad hominem properly.
No.
Why? I'm just curious. Why does it bother you, Libs?
Casting a shadow on something does not exactly constitute an attack.
Bruce.
When you try to explain to somebody that in fact, this is actually the second call I just made because I had made the call, and then the program turned into what I presumed was a recorded version of the IRS incident, which went on, in which I personally have heard at least 97 times on the program. So I actually, the reason I'm on is I happened to call back to inquire when you were going to be there live, and it was claimed, and it appeared to be true, that you are live. It's just that you
Bruce,
have
honestly,
some syndrome that causes you to say the same thing over and over hundreds of times.
Bruce, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Of course not.
But if I say things over and over again hundreds of times, why do you listen to me?
Because actually, listening to your program gives me the personal illusion that I'm bright, when in fact I'm simply not that bright. I'm just listening to people who have some sort of syndrome that causes them to repeat things endlessly.
Okay. So you're making an you're making an ad hominem attack on me.
No.
But you don't want to call it ad hominem. That's okay. Bruce, listen. If you've got nothing better to do except to call and take little pot shots at me, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I just...
Bruce, listen, look, I'll do you one up, honestly. I'll do you... For some reason, for you liberals, I don't know why, it bugs you liberals in this state so much that I'm a former McGill University professor. Why does it bother you people so much? That I was an academic, a successful academic, a popular academic, that I spent 10 years in Washington, that I was one of the most read columnists in the country. Why does that bother you people so much? But I'll do you a favor, Bruce. I'll do you a favor, okay? Really, honestly. I am scum of the earth. No, I'll announce it for everybody. I'm scum. I've got little horns that come out of my head, okay, Bruce? I'm the lowest life form that ever existed, okay? Adolf Hitler was a choir boy compared to me. Okay? I'm the lowest of the low, Bruce. Puh, puh. Okay, that's what you say, Jeff Kuhner? Puh, puh. Are you satisfied? Now deal with my arguments. She committed a crime. The IRS deliberately, systematically went after the president's opponents and critics as part of a criminal conspiracy to prevent the opposition from forming against Obama in the 2012 re-election campaign. Now, those are the facts. Now, you can call me names till you're blue in the face. The facts are the facts. Have a nice day, Bruce. 617-2... You see what I got to put up with? A man of my education, a man of my learning. You see this? I read him Webster's Dictionary's definition of ad hominem, and he still makes ad hominem. John, I've got 1 minute. Go, baby.
Hey, Jeff, how you doing?
Good. How are you, John?
Well, first of all, I'm doing great. I want to know what drugs the last caller was taking, because I really would like to get some.
I think maybe you had a little bit too much of the sauce. Let's look at the meaning of the word Bruce. Not ad hominem. Let's look at Bruce. What does Bruce mean? I gotta go, my friends. You've been listening to Boston's Bulldozer, and remember, together, we're beating liberals. In fact, honestly, we're driving them crazy. One day at a time.